All right, guys. So, like I said, this lesson is all on algebra. So, if you do it a different way, that's absolutely fine. I'm just going to go through how I teach this lesson. Okay. So, I'm only going to do a couple questions from each, not going to do all of it. If you need to check your work, I'll upload the answer key to your notes just to double check. Okay. So for this entire section, we need to place our equations in slope-intercept form. And slope-intercept form is y is equal to mx plus b. And coming from the name, obviously our m represents our slope, and our b is our y-intercept. So if you notice here, all right, the y is by itself. That means we need to get the x and the number on the other side. So if I look at this first example, I need to isolate the y. So that means I'm going to add 1x to both sides to move that x over. So these cancel out. And I'm left with negative 2y is equal to 1x plus 4. And I like to tuck my 1x in front of the 4. And then because this 4 was originally positive, that's why I turned it into a plus. And then the last step is the question is like, how is the negative 2 connected to the y? And it's through multiplication. So to get rid of it, we divide it out. And then we divide out each of the terms on the left-hand side or on the right-hand side. Okay. These cancel. And so in slope-intercept form, y is equal to negative 1/2 x minus 2. And then just something just to be careful of, if you notice here, I divided by a negative 2, so the negative was in the denominator, and I moved it into the numerator for my final answer, and that's absolutely fine. Okay? So the first section of these, we're going to be talking about how to find slope. Okay? So from a graph, we do rise over run, all right? And so what you do is you find two good points. So one good point I found is 1, 1. And then another good point is over here at negative 4, 3. And so to get from point to point, we have to rise and then we have to run. But the first thing I want you to notice is what type of slope is that? And that's a negative slope because it's falling from left to right. Okay, so I know that my answer should ultimately be negative. So I'm going to rise up 2, but then I'm going to run to the left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So because I had to go to the left, all right, my run is negative. And so for your final answer, your slope is negative 2 over 5. Okay? Now, on this next one, we have to use the slope formula. And the slope formula is y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. And what I do is I just go straight across and I label x1, y1, x2, y2. And then I substitute in. So my y2 is negative 3. So you do negative 3. My y1 is 0. So minus 0. All over my x2, which is 3, minus 0, which gives you negative 3 over 3, which simplifies into negative 1. Okay? Now, this next portion is all about how to find slope from an equation. All right? And it's just exactly what we did in our first example, where we have to get y by itself. So once again, I'm going to add the 5x over to move it to the opposite side. And I bring down my negative 6y because my 5x's cancel. And I like to start with my 5x, and then I'm going to do plus 12 because it's a positive 12. My next step, I divide out the negative 6, and then we simplify. So our simplified answer is y is equal to negative 5 over 6x minus 2, okay? And so the question, though, is to find the slope. So if you just left your final answer here, I would actually take off points because you're not telling me, is the slope negative 5, 6, or is it negative 2? So your final step is to say, for sure, the slope is negative 5 over 6. Okay? Now, there's special cases in slope. And so I have a mnemonic device to help us, and that's VUX-HOI. And it's actually going to be super important when we're trying to write the equations of lines. And so it's all about special cases. And so we start with the V, which stands for vertical. And what you're going to know is that vertical lines have an undefined slope. And then finally, the equations of a vertical line with an undefined slope is just x equals a number. Okay? So that's VUX. All of these are connected. Vertical lines have undefined slope, and that's x equals a number. Okay? For HOI, obviously, the H is going to stand for horizontal. And then the O is not actually an O, but it's a 0, all right, because it has a 0 slope. And then the equation is just y equals a number, no x in there. Okay? So if I'm going through these questions, all right, we start with this first line, all right, which is a vertical line, okay? And I know that if I'm trying to find the slope, it's going to be undefined because I use Vux, okay? Now, if you go to the one right beside it, this is a horizontal line, all right? Horizontal lines have no slope, okay? Now, if you compare this one right here, it's y equals 8, all right? And so this technically could be written as y is equal to 0x plus 8, right? Because 0 times x would cancel out the x, all right? So my slope here is 0. But if you remember what the y in Hoy stands for, it's that the equation is y is equal to a number, which is what we have right here, which means that your slope is 0, okay? All right, same idea. We recognize that x equals a number as a vertical line, and vertical lines have undefined slopes. Okay? All right, so we're going to pause there